The following is a sponsored episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I am joined by my friend Jess Freeman today. Jess and I actually connected online first, but we met in person last year in Boise at the KIT conference, and I just adore her. You guys are gonna love her too. So Jess, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Super excited to chat. Just a quick intro to who Jess is. She is a web designer and SEO strategist behind Jess Creatives, where she helps established nutrition and fitness professionals use their websites to bring in aligned clients consistently. You'll hear that word a lot throughout our conversation today. Jess is also reclaiming the word ordinary. I love this reframe. As the founder of The Ordinary Business, which is a podcast, summit, and community for experienced service-based business owners who want predictable income, clarity, and sustainable growth that actually fits real life. In other words, building better, not bigger. Jess has been running her own ordinary business for 14 years and has had a consistent client waitlist for over a decade. Jess, that's massively impressive. First of all, like a client waitlist consistently for 10 years running. I want to show our listeners how realistic and possible this is, even with a small audience, because I think people are going to be blown away by how you've maintained such consistent results without having to have a giant list or a huge following on social. So why don't you actually tell us, like, what is your current audience size or breakdown?
Yeah, so I have about 5,000 followers on Instagram and just like right under 5,000 on Threads. And then my email list, I think, is sitting at like 600 people-ish. And I really kind of segment my list, separating kind of just creatives and ordinary a little bit. Like some get both, but not all. And then I don't know. I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't know. My followers are on there. So really, I'm like all in on Instagram and Threads. But yeah, it's definitely not a huge audience. It never has been. I'm not someone who it was like, oh, I had this big list or big following and then I started over. Like that Instagram account has been around for 14 years and I'm just now like crossing 5,000 followers.
That's amazing. I think that's going to be so encouraging to a lot of people tuning in to see that you can build a successful six-figure plus business without, all the things, all the trappings that we usually hear about. And our conversation today is actually around how you used Threads specifically to monetize, again, a small non-viral audience, and more recently, $6,000 in summit sponsorships that you were able to secure in just 2 months on Threads. So to kind of set the stage for this conversation, I first wanted to talk about how, when Threads originally came out, how if you connected or if you created an account that was connected to your Instagram, it would prompt or notify your followers. So like a lot of people's Instagram followers immediately transferred over to Threads. I'm curious, did that happen for you, or were you kind of actually starting from complete scratch in your audience on Threads? And as a follow-up question, if it was the former, as your Threads account has grown, have you found that it is almost entirely mirrored by your Instagram audience? Like there's a whole lot of crossover, or do you find that the people who follow you on Threads are actually kind of like a separate group than the people who are following you on Instagram?
So I find that my two audiences are very separate, even though they are technically connected like through the Instagram. And I think I did do the like, oh, it's like bring over those followers or something. But actually, a lot of my Instagram followers are not on Threads.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
so you mentioned I work a lot with like the health and fitness community,
Mhm.
and not very many of my clients and followers on Instagram in that niche are on Threads. They're kind of
Mhm.
like, I'm tapped out on social. I don't want another platform. So
Fair.
I don't remember exactly how many crossed over. I know some did, but it was definitely not that many. I have grown quite a bit on Threads like since being there.
Mm.
But yeah, it feels like two separate audiences. It really feels different.
Okay, that's really helpful to know. What kind of audience then would you say you are actually speaking to and cultivating on Threads?
So I really use Threads, like even though it is my Just Creatives account and not my ordinary business account, I am really connecting with other service providers. Like Yes, there are some of my clients in that niche on Threads, but I try to approach Threads as more collaboration, meeting peers, and then now trying to kind of connect with other ordinary business owners and growing that kind of community there. So, yeah, it's a lot of other business owners, just not in my niche. They're not really potential clients, it's more potential collaborators.
That makes sense. And it's part of the reason I really enjoy your content on Threads. Highly recommend you give Jess a follow on Threads, especially if you relate to this idea of wanting to build a better business, not just a bigger business and chasing infinite scale. I think that you do a great job of really relating to business owners who feel seen by that sentiment. And if I remember correctly, you'll have to give the full origin story, but if I remember correctly, the Ordinary Summit actually came out of a thread, right? Like it was like this
Mhm.
random idea that either you tossed into the ether or maybe someone in the comments did. Can you share a little bit more about the origin story?
Yes. So I was about to go to we were about to go to KIT in Boise, and I was just feeling a little frustrated of like, I'm trying to like meet people. I'm going to this conference. I'm feeling a little brushed off by some people because I'm not this big glamorous business owner with a huge list and following. And so I literally was packing and made a Threads post. And I was like, someday I'm going to host the Ordinary Conference and put a little TM just to be like cute and funny. And I was like, to be a speaker, you're going to have to make less than 300,000, have less than 5,000 followers, which I've already disqualified myself. At the point, I didn't have 5,000 followers anywhere. So, and then I think I said like, be in business more than 5 years, and there will be snacks because I love snacks. I'm like thinking like this is stupid. I'm just like feeling annoyed about how business works sometimes. And it didn't go viral, but it got a lot of engagement. I had people that I'd never met DMing me being like, I have event experience and I would love to help you. Not in like this sleazy pitch, like how people are like awkwardly pitching us in the DMs. Like, no, this was like genuine, like, this is amazing. Please do this. I had multiple people who were genuinely like, can I buy a ticket? Like, where is the ticket sign up? Is there a wait list? Can you set up a wait list? And I was like, guys, I don't have event experience. Like, I'm going to need to call Ellen to like get this situated. I know. What are you all talking about? I was just being silly. And I remember talking to a few friends and being like, what is happening? I'm not, and I'm very much a go-getter. I'm a quick start, if you know I think that's the Colby thing. So it's very easy for me to be like, oh, this is a great idea. I should run with this. But that one scared me. I was like, I don't do conferences. But a friend of mine was like, you have really like I think there's something here. Like, I don't know. I would just think about it. And so then I thought about it for a few weeks and I was like, I don't know. It feels weird to just go from 0 to 100 and like start a conference with nothing. And so I was like, how about we try a summit first? Like, let's do a virtual summit and kind of see how this goes. And I was very surprised by the reaction because I'll be very honest. I've been in business for 14 years, but I have not ever had something that people were very excited about. Like, no one is like jumping up and down about a new website package, like, and I've had multiple podcasts and I've done little other summits and stuff, but nothing has ever been like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. So it was a very new experience to launch something and people be over the top excited. I got over 90 speaker applications and I had to shut down the speaker application because I was overwhelmed. Like, it was supposed to be open for, I think, another week or 10 days. And I shut it down early. And I had multiple people who realized it shut down and said, wait, I was going to apply. Yeah. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I have 90 some applications to sort through. And I was not expecting this type of reaction.
Well, you clearly struck a chord as you've assessed. And I think it really has to do with the message or joke, really, that you put out. But has turned into obviously like kind of like a movement or a community, it really resonated with people's identity. And I think that's
Mhm.
why they're so excited about it is they, like you said, these are people who probably in many types of business circles or for many types of opportunities like speaking on stages, virtual or in person, often feel overlooked because of their lack of huge audience size, or they don't resonate or want the identity of maybe being a seven-figure entrepreneur or whatever that looks like. And so I think you saying, hey, it's actually okay to not want that. And here's an alternative. And here's how I've built a really sustainable business without that. I think that makes a lot of sense why people were so drawn to this opportunity. So I'm glad that you decided to test things out with the virtual summit. And obviously, with summits, there's really kind of one of two ways to monetize. It's either you monetize through ticket sales and or upsells. Like I know a lot of online summits will do like a replay pass or like a digital goodie bag, which I believe you still had some of those elements.
Mhm.
But the other big way people make money through virtual summits is sponsorship. So you decided to go after sponsors for your very first summit for ordinary business. What was like going through your head when you were deciding to do this? Did you have specific types of sponsors in mind, or was it kind of just like everything else? You were like, let me just throw this concept out there and see if there's interest.
I'm gonna be totally honest. It was very much, let me just throw it out there and see if this is. So to back up a little bit, one of the friends that helped kind of encourage me, like, I think you should lean into this, think about it. I ended up hiring her for a little bit of consulting because she had done summits before. And she's like, let me help like strategize this. And she was someone who kind of really pushed me to do some sponsorships. I think I had kind of had a few like ideas for sponsors. And she was like, no, we need like 6 different options for sponsors and we need like this and this. Like she really helped me improve kind of the strategy for the summit. And at first I pitched some brands and like software that a lot of us use. Spoiler alert, none of them responded. And I was like, you know what, that's fine. But actually, after a few no replies and they didn't even acknowledge the emails, I was like, actually, I think it's even better that all of the sponsors are other small businesses. I actually really like that I'm getting to highlight my speakers and I'm getting to highlight other small businesses that could have also been a speaker and they get to sponsor. So it was just like one big party of all these online friends and getting to highlight everyone. And so I really think that, and I know actually, that many of them decided to sponsor because they were like, I just want my name attached to this.
Mm.
Not in a like, often I think when we sponsor or try to get on a podcast, it's like, I want my name attached to this because it's Nike and this big name and then it'll be all this authority for me. This was like, I really align with this mission, these values, and like, this seems awesome. And I just want to be a part of it.
Mm.
And so I think that's why it was so easy to get all these sponsors to come in. It was also very low lift. Like I had pretty inexpensive sponsorship. Like it was like $50 to be part of the goodie bag. It was like very easy, And so I think that's part of why there was already this excitement and people were really like, this is needed. We're tired of the influencers and all the gurus. Where's the people that look like me and run a business like me? And so a lot of the speakers, I had some speakers who spoke and sponsored, people who applied to speak and didn't get chosen, ended up sponsoring. Like, it was just really cool to see these people come together and like, yes, this is what I want. So that it was really cool just to see it kind of like fall in place.
I mean, you, like I've said before, you've clearly tapped into something super magical, which I feel like is what makes this momentum feel so natural. And I will say, I agree with you. I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise that some of those bigger brands or software companies chose to not be part of this, at least the first round, because it did open up this door for something to feel so on brand. Like you're literally creating this for ordinary business owners and you're giving them this opportunity they normally would not have to be a sponsor of a summit. So I just think it all worked out so beautifully in that regard. And I do want to kind of break down a little bit more what those different sponsorship opportunities and packages look like so that people listening in who might, want to bring on sponsors for their own summit can kind of, get some creative ideas here. But Before we even do that, just to kind of go back to the threads piece. So you kind of put
Hmm.
out this feeler. There was obviously interest, but what other types of content were you actually posting on threads that got people to sponsor? Like, what was the call to action? Were you telling them to email you? Were you just DMing them if they showed interest in a comment? Were you asking them to book a discovery call? Like, what were you actually saying? And even if you want to pull up your Threads account and read maybe some of those posts, if you can pull it up quickly enough. Otherwise, just whatever you remember off the top of your head, I think would be super helpful.
Yeah, so two kind of things come to mind. One, I remember I did have a Threads post go viral a few, like that first post was in June, and then kind of unrelated to the summit but still in line with this ordinary messaging. I made a post that really just laid out the truth about my numbers, and I was like, I've been in business for this long. I made $200,000 in revenue last year. I only have, at that time, it was like 400 email subscribers. I think I mentioned some other numbers. And then I talked about like, but I've had a client wait list. I'm able to pay myself a salary every month. And that post went viral. And
I
I
remember
mean,
it.
I don't remember exactly how many views it got. It got over 1,000 likes, but it brought in over 500 followers.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, because on Threads, if you're not on Threads for people listening, you can see that like Ellen has followed you from this post. And so then when you get a lot, like mine was like Elaine and 498 others have followed. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And so there was, like you mentioned earlier, kind of leaning into this identity. And so I really started leaning into that and posting more of that and just those kind of thoughts. And like, no, I don't want 7 figures and I want this. And people just kept commenting and being like, yes, yes, like this is me. And so part of it was the identity marketing to kind of keep people engaged and bring in more people into the ordinary kind of world. And then when it came to sponsors, I will be honest, I didn't have any great specific strategy. I remember it was typically just posts that were like, hey, I'm looking. I remember the first one I made. I was like, there are sponsorship opportunities for the Ordinary Business Summit, and you can like do X, Y, and Z. Let me know if you're interested. And there were a ton of comments because at this point I was still working on the website, so I didn't have a sales page to send them or anything. So I was like, I have a Google Doc, I will DM you.
Honestly, one of my favorite ways to sell, sidebar. Like, truly, I think it's so underrated to just be like, here are my thoughts in a Google Doc. We're either in or we're not, you know? So, yeah,
Yes,
anyways.
yeah. And I was like, this is very ordinary. And I'm just
Yes,
leaning into it, you know?
I love it.
And so, yeah, I didn't book a single call with sponsors. I did DM back and forth with like a handful of people who had questions, or I mean, I had some people who were interested in sponsoring but wanted like a different tier, different package, or like I want their email addresses. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So that's not an option. But mostly it was just like, here's the Google Doc. I'm going to DM it to you, or because Threads, of course, doesn't like links, so I didn't put it in that original post.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, hey, raise your hand if you're interested. And so then I just kind of kept mentioning that. And then also as sponsors rolled in, I would tag them on Threads. And I would say like, okay, we have our 2 Slack chat sponsors. We have our 2, our roundtable sponsor. My top like tier sponsors, they got a few shout outs just for like them. It was like, here are our main, like our presenting sponsors for the summit, and like appreciate them. You should check them out. This is what they do. So it was just like promoting them. And there was no part of like the contract and the sponsorship that was like, you're going to get 3 thread shout outs or anything. It was just like, I want to highlight them. Like they are part of the community now. And so I just want to highlight them and their services because like I said, they're other small business owners. Like
Yeah.
they also only have a few hundred, maybe a few thousand followers. So they're not like people who have 20,000 followers coming to sponsor this event.
Right.
And so just as I kept mentioning and shouting out people, it kind of kept interest and people kept seeing it. I did send some emails to my list just to see like, hey, if you want to sponsor. That didn't work very well because again, most of my list was these health and fitness people, and this summit, while they are still welcome and like they are also ordinary business owners, it was also like wasn't just a great fit.
Yeah.
And
Because they're there
so
for a different reason.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
So I tried. I was like, you're welcome to sponsor. Because I also know I do have some just like service providers, like
Right.
copywriters and such on my list as well. But yeah, it was primarily like either internet friends, peers that I knew through other like masterminds, and then threads. That's primarily how these sponsors came in.
That's so cool. I just love that Threads, not only is it one of the youngest social platforms, right? It's only been around for what is it, like 2 full years?
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so it's still definitely emerging, even though it's obviously tied to the beast that is the Meta ecosystem. But I feel like even though it's changed since its early days, it's still very much like a Wild West, very carefree. I think people are just a lot more casual in the
Oh, yes.
thoughts they allow to come out on Threads. I think people just really gravitate towards that, and I love that Threads. It's kind of the expectation when you go on Threads that the majority of the content you see is going to be from people you don't follow, which is, it makes it fun. It's kind of like a great discovery of what water cooler conversations are happening on the internet today, right? Basically. And so I think there is such potential to reach people beyond your own audience on Threads, which is why it's so powerful. So I love to see that happening in real time with the sponsorship interest that you got. Going back to the actual sponsorship packages, I know you said you had ones as low as $50. What was the highest sponsorship package available? And if you could just quickly, high level, give us a rundown of the different sponsorship opportunities you had, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. So the highest one was, I believe, $600. And that was like my presenting sponsor. So they got, featured on the homepage, mentioned in every single email, multiple mentions on social. They were also in every like video presentation. We had like an overlay kind of intro, had their logos there. So they were just everywhere. Everywhere. And then I had one round table that happened during a live round table. So I had a sponsor for that. Similarly, they didn't get as much shout out, but they were mentioned in the schedule. So like on the summit website, it wasn't just, oh, here's the round table. They were also mentioned and linked there, mentioned in the round table as well. We had Slack chats, which are like discussions that happen for about 30 minutes in Slack on a very specific topic. And we had a sponsor for each of those. So there were 4 Slack chats during the summit. And again, mentioned on the summit website, mentioned at the beginning and end of each chat with their link and everything. And I think most of them were in Slack. So we also just like tagged, like mentioned them. So it was like, here's Ellen or, whatever. And then we had the goodie bag, which was for the VIP attendees. This is all virtual. So it was just like some PDFs and that kind of thing. And it was just like, here you got the link to like a Google folder with all the things. We had people who sent in like opt-in bots, custom GBTs, workbooks, mini courses, part of their course, things like that. We also allowed people to, instead of contributing like a thing, it was like, I'm sponsoring and you get a $200 discount off my like done for you service if you use this link or just mention ordinary when you inquire.
Smart.
And so it was like really good. Just, it wasn't like, oh, here's a $50 discount. It was like $200. That's like $200 is like a pretty good discount.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was $50 to contribute. It was very low lift and just an easy way. Like, I just want to like highlight you, share your stuff, with these attendees. And so, yeah, I think that was the main sponsorships. I have changed them for this next upcoming summit a little bit, but yeah, it was really cool to see like all the sponsorship spots just filled, taken. It's like, sign me up. I want to be part of this. Like, what's the best spot for me? Like, it was just really cool.
That's amazing. And I love the creativity, and especially with the sponsored Slack chats. I think that's brilliant. So you mentioned you're changing some things for this upcoming round. First of all, when is the next Ordinary Summit? So our listeners can put it on their calendar. And then second, what inspired the changes? Like, or what specifically are you changing about the sponsorships? I guess in tandem to that, I'm sorry, I'm rolling 3 questions into one, but I promise they're related. With last time, like when these sponsorship spots filled, obviously there was something that made them say yes to sponsoring an event that hadn't happened before. You weren't pushing a hard sell. You never got on a sales call with any of these people. So what do you feel like made sponsors say yes last time? And then based on what worked or what didn't last time, what are you changing about this time?
So to answer your first question, the next summit is April 1st and 2nd. Again, it's virtual, so you can watch from your office or your couch or whatever. And then last time, I think I mentioned this a little bit ago, but I really believe they were willing to sign up and sponsor because they were like, I just want to be part of this community. Because I know that this is full of my peers almost and like ideal potential clients. I will say there's no specific cutoff. Like if you make $400,000, it's not like you're not allowed to be part of the ordinary. Like it's more of your heart and kind of your values in business. And it's just like, we don't have teams. We just want I don't want to say slow business, but just a like simple, like I want to pay my bills, pay myself well, and take vacations kind of vibe. And so people were really like, oh, these are my people. Like I'm not getting in front of like beginners. And I like, they knew that this was a group of people that they resonated with and like, oh, we share similar mindset around business. So I think that's why they were so willing to just show up and be like, here's $100. Like, I think that was part of it. So I kept some of the sponsorship spots for this next time. Like we still have roundtable sponsors and Slack chat sponsors, but two things I changed. I added an even higher sponsorship tier because one thing that's very different about Ordinary is that you are not teaching your expertise. Really, the goal of the Ordinary business is helping us become better, not bigger. And as you have probably experienced, when we go to events and masterminds and like hang out with our business friends, there's always like, wait, how are you organizing this? What's your Google Drive structure? Like, what tool are you using for this? You use Zapier for what? And so I really want everything with Ordinary to be very behind the scenes. Like, just show me how you're setting up your Asana, even though you're not an Asana expert. And so it's very like, I'm not teaching anything related to what I do. I think last time there was like 2 people who did teach something, but it was still very ordinary. And then this time I think there might be 1 or 2 that also are kind of teaching something related. But it's very like, this is what I'm doing in my business. I just also happen to like do it for people. But there were people last time who were like, I want to teach in front of these ordinary business owners. Like I want to share my expertise. And I was like, well, that's not the point of this. So this time there's only 2 spots and one's already taken. The expert sponsorship, you get to actually teach. There's a dedicated time slot just for your presentation. Nothing else is going on at that time. And you get to teach, and then also like some other perks as well. But that's kind of like the biggest differentiator. And then instead of the goodie bag where it was just like, okay, here's a bunch of like PDFs and links to sign up for things, it's similar that you get to like contribute something, but I'm making it so that people will join your email list. So it's basically kind of like a bundle where you sign up and then you can click on like, okay, I want Ellen's thing, I want Mandy's thing, and you join their list. And so rather than me just get all these PDFs or links or whatever and handing it off, it's like you all get to grow your email list, because I wanted it to be more beneficial for the sponsors instead of just like, yes, you're giving me this branded workbook or whatever and it has your name and information in it, but I want you to also get their email, because that was something a few people had mentioned last time. And so I was like, it's easier for me because then I don't have to wrangle all these PDFs and logins and whatever, but you also get a bigger benefit as a sponsor.
So smart to create a solution for like the experts, the people who want to do that type of presentation, for you to turn it into a sponsorship. Brilliant. Love that. And then, yes, I think it's a wise move to kind of put the contact back into the hands of the sponsors in the goodie bag. So that makes complete sense to me. It's so awesome just to see, even between iteration 1 and 2, how it's already kind of taking shape into something even greater, which I I think is what's so cool about testing new ideas and experimenting like you have here with the Ordinary Summit. You never know what it's going to turn into. Now you have a podcast of the same name and people are sponsoring your podcast, which is, by the way, just like give a quick plug for your podcast ads, because I think that, again, there's so many people who want to get into the advertising space, whether it's traditional advertising like Google and Facebook ads, or whether it's sponsoring peers. But oftentimes the barrier to entry is quite high, right? As you know. And so for you to provide such affordable options for people to experiment in this way with their marketing budget, I think is just, it needs to be shared more. So tell us a little bit about the podcast ad plugs.
Yeah, so it's very ordinary and very simple. It's $50 for an ad. And it's not dynamic ads. It's literally you get $50 one ad. It stays on that episode forever. And you can buy multiple ad spots obviously, but I just, like you said, I wanted to be able to make it more accessible. People can experiment. They're getting in front of other people who share the same values and run this, same kind of business in a way. And yeah, I was like, I don't know, I'm just going to try it, because that's kind of my motto. I'm just going to try it. I mean, the worst that happens is I set up this form for people to pay and no one does it. Like, I just put it out there on Threads and was like, hey, I'm doing $50 ad spots. Here you go. Like, and people were like, yes, please. I think I made like $400 in 3 days. I was like,
incredible.
Okay, well, I guess people wanted ads. So yeah, it's very simple.
I love that. Well, the link for the ads will be below in the show notes. The link for everything, links, I should say, plural, for everything that we've talked about today will be in the show notes. Is registration open, by the way, for Ordinary Summit April 1st and 2nd?
Yes. Well, you can join the wait list.
Perfect.
So that you are notified when early bird tickets go on sale. So everything is on the website, theordinarybusiness.com. You can find the podcast, you can find sponsorship options, you can find for both the summit and the podcast. You can see who the speakers are. Like, literally everything is on the website.
Amazing. Well, make sure you check out the links below. To close our conversation today, Jess, circling back to just Threads as a channel to connect with people outside of your own audience, to connect with people with shared interests like you've displayed here. What else do you think people should know about Threads? Like, what's a misconception that our listeners might have about Threads, and how would you recommend they utilize this channel to grow their business?
Yeah. So if you have seen people talking about Threads, or if you are already on Threads, you may know this, but often a lot of business owners keep saying, well, only my like random Threads post about my toddler or my dog or my car, whatever, are the things that go viral. Like, it's never my business posts that go viral. And I'm like, well, yeah, because typically our business posts are a little bit maybe salesy, like, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but yeah, like me pitching my SEO services, it's not going to go viral. And so what I really want to remind you is like I know it was my own experience, but my post talking about, my numbers and stuff, while yes, I wasn't like talking about my web design services, it was business related, and it did bring in business owners as followers. Mm-hmm. And so what I have really found, and what I tell other people, is really leaning into the identity marketing and being relatable. And obviously, like, I'm very ordinary. So when I say being relatable, like, it doesn't have to be you talking about like what you're doing, but more about how you're feeling and how you think and approach business. And I think that is what resonates with people. Any of the posts that I've seen from business owners or otherwise going viral, it's always something that's very relatable. It's some type of experience or thought process that they've had. And so you just have to kind of rethink or tweak how you're kind of approaching Threads if you're trying to like go viral or get some more traction. And so I think people it is the water cooler. Mm-hmm. And so those types of posts, the more life-oriented posts, do perform better. Mm-hmm. But I think just kind of thinking like, what is something that I believe, that I value? What's an experience that I have that other people also have probably a same or similar experience? And it can be a business related post that does go viral if you want it to go viral or get traction, whatever you want to say.
Right. I think you're spot on there, Jess. It's really about bringing a unique perspective from your own lived experiences or a worldview. I think when you were talking about like your thought process, your approach, it's like, what
Hmm.
is your worldview on insert any topic in the world, but just pick topics that are related to your business. And that's how you have that conversation, that dialogue, right? With people who either feel the same as you do, or maybe the opposite of what you do. And they equally will engage with
Hmm.
you to share their 2 cents. So
They will.
yeah, whether we want it or not. So I think that's a great note to end on, a great encouragement for anyone who wants to get into the world of threads. Again, you can also be like me. I'm mostly a lurker on threads, but I have so much fun, chiming in on other people's conversations. So follow Jess on threads. She already told you about the website, theordinarybusiness.com, where you can find all the links for the podcast, the upcoming summit. Jess, is there anywhere else that people should connect with you? I don't think you mentioned your Instagram if you want to.
Oh, yes. Yes. So I don't have a separate threads for The Ordinary, but there is a separate Instagram, and it's just The Ordinary Business is the handle. So you can come over there and hang out on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, friend. Really appreciate you. And thank you all for tuning in for this episode. We'll catch you in the next one.